All right, we've talked about tech. We have talked about companies' perspective on tech. But now it's time to hear from actual humans spearheading the AI transformation. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Skai's Chief Operating Officer, Shirley Gil-Rahman, and the panelists.
Lunch and really great to see so many familiar faces around the room. As Jim said, my name is Shirley Gil-Rahman and I'm the COO of Skai. Many of you were at the reception last night, and as I was coming back to the hotel room after that and thinking about the conversations, not surprisingly, they were all or mostly about AI. Some bigger questions: what will happen to the human race? How will the job market be in 5 years? But most of the conversations were about the here and now. How do we deal with that with our teams? How are roles changing? Is AI an assistant? Is it part of our teams? As Gil mentioned before, part of a hybrid team that's both human and AI. And that's what this session is about today, the human face of AI. So I'm joined here by 4 individuals that I'm honored to be on stage with. Maybe we can start with each of you introducing yourself. So why don't we start with you, Sam?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Bukowski. I'm the Global President of Commerce at WPP. So I helped stitch together all of our commerce media capabilities with Commerce Creative, Shopper, Trade, and beyond.
I'm Rory Foster, ex-P&G, which is where most of my career was. Currently am leading innovation change management for a smaller regional ad agency in Cincinnati that we're using these tools to modernize and step into new service areas.
I am Jamie Roller. I head up the marketplace and digital retail team at Dr. Squatch. We are a men's personal care company now owned by Unilever. And I've been there for about 4.5 years, so kind of seen it through that transition from very fast scaling brand to more of a corporate.
Hi, I'm Dee Fitzgerald. I am the Chief Data Officer at a company called Danone. You may know it as Danone here. If you're in Spain, it's Danone, so pick your country, you call it something different. We're a CPG organization. You've probably seen some of our products on the tables: Evian Water, Oikos, Activia, Silk. And I've been with the company for about 5 years, balancing digital transformation, data, AI, technology for the company globally and locally.
Thank you. So as we kick off the conversation, maybe we can start where are we on the AI journey? I'm sure we are all at different stages. Why don't we start with you, Dee?
Sure. So as I mentioned to many of my colleagues, AI is not new. But for some reason, about 2 years ago, thanks to something called generative AI, it became extremely new, it became extremely chaotic. And I think we went, all of us, into this chaos of how do we experiment and learn, what is this topic, into now more of I'll say a more structured of piloting. And in some cases, there might be some good examples, but not too many examples where we're scaling, yeah? So we've moved into that journey, but I would say that's built on many different foundational capabilities that we've established. We've completely re-architected our data platform to enable data governance, to enable AI to be, let's say, flexible, resilient, and a little bit somewhat balancing the sovereignty as well. We've implemented data governance. What does it mean from a business perspective? My dear friends from legal and compliance, I work with on establishing responsible AI policies. And the one thing that I would say is it's very different. What we've agreed to with this AI is every policy we set or every technology we create or every product we build, it's a living, breathing environment. It's very agile. Nothing is going to be set in stone, because we do not know what tomorrow will look like. We do not know what. So we've changed our methods of really embracing the unknown. But trying to put some structure and trying to really get use cases that we land in that are very much tied to the strategic pillars of our business strategies. which encompass all different types of areas.
Right?
At Squatch, I think we're perhaps not as top-down governance focused as a larger firm would be. I would say we're moving quite fast in some areas, but there's pockets of excellence where some teams are moving much faster because AI is much more helpful for them to enable their work. With that being said, I think we're very much building from the middle out, and it's kind of being led by the individual teams on how they want to implement AI within their processes. So we're just, I would say we're figuring out as we go, with pockets of like real excellence in the team driving things forward.
Rory, what about you?
So we're in a unique position. Our company is about a 45-year-old private agency, largely creative-based, and we have a lot of financial service. Our large clients are financial service and national retailers. So what I've been doing is leveraging it to operationalize in different places. So we now have a strategy practice. We now have a more formalized operations practice, and now we're extending into services, including media and CRM, marketing automation management, for our clients and some new ones that are being brought on. So what we've been able to do is build a new business on top of a business. So we're running a startup on top of a 45-year-old company by using and leveraging the tools, agents, and processes differently, so that we don't have to add a bunch of headcount, because a lot of this is experimentation. Right. So we're able to take strategic hires. I brought some of my P&G former employees that were teammates or worked under me, and we brought them out so they have a strong core of somebody that has functional knowledge in those spaces. We're able to supplement and implement these new protocols and these new capabilities by supercharging the humans and giving them extra tools without overloading our balance sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of what these guys are saying is resonating for me too, even at WPP. We were kind of joking earlier about some of the complexities that come with working in such a large organization, right? WPP, 100,000 people, right? And endless capabilities. And sometimes that can be really challenging, but I think when it came to AI, when we needed the organization to really kick into high gear, we benefited a lot, I think, from that scale. Dee talked about kind of evolving and the data governance and the amount of kind of principles that you have to put into place for this to work well. So we very much focused on that. We acquired InfoSum about a year ago, which is a kind of privacy by design technology infrastructure that sits kind of at the heart of that, which had we not done that, I think it would have been much more difficult to get where we are now. But I think we're in a place now with kind of what Rory was saying, was the speed with which you can launch new capabilities on top of that is pretty phenomenal. And it's transforming the talent and the way we think about the business at large. And so in a lot of ways, it's a rewiring, but I think we're very privileged to come from a place of having made some of those early investments, a little bit of a springboard.
Yeah, and that maturity that comes with that, right, I'm sure influences your teams. I'm sure your teams are feeling the pressure. So how have roles changed in your teams with AI in the mix? Have they or have they not? And if so, how much?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Do we want to rotate or? I'll
Yes.
go again. Okay. Rock, paper, scissors.
We're going to D first.
So I think, because I work in a team that enables the business as well. Mm-hmm. So first I'll start with my team, and we have to become much more expert-oriented, or from a working knowledge perspective. You cannot understand everything that is out in the market, and every time it changes, and what new, whether it's technology, whether it's the way an existing technology is evolving, new companies, new startups, et cetera. There's just too much to know in depth. My team is also we've set up reverse mentoring capabilities where they are mentoring the senior leaders of the company, so they know enough about what to say and what not to say, probably even more importantly. And so that's part of it. On the business, it's about how do you build these skills, because again, it's very much how do you allow the business to innovate more versus needing IT to do it for you.
Right.
So there's a whole different mindset and a whole different set of skills for the business and for, let's say, the technical team to evolve to. And then we're working literally with our human resource, with HR, on what is, we have different personas. What will those personas look like 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and how do we start equipping them with skills? I think we've gone from the feeling of, oh, my job is going to come to an end, to my job is going to be different. Yeah. And it's a huge shift in mindset, which has really helped us feel more welcome, I'll say, when we bring things to the table. But it's just allowed us to change that. So I'd say many different areas of skills needing and behaviors needing to change.
Jamie, has your team changed?
Yeah, at Squatch, we're in a fortunate position because we're such a fast-scaling company that certainly within our e-com and marketing team, we've already been, I would say, like for the last 5 years, we're so used to being flexible with our roles, and we know things will change. So in that sense, we've been very fortunate because as new tools have become part of our regular processes, it's been natural for us to pick them up. I would say the one thing that I've noticed as a leader within the team is that the expectations are changing. So previously, things, building models or reports that would have taken days, we now know they can get done in 15 minutes with Claude. So the expectation is that we just do more and more and more. And that's something that I think as leaders we have to be very, very thoughtful about with our teams, like setting the right bar, because we're doing a lot more than we used to. Certainly I'm feeling that in my team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly right. And the other side of it for us is, being largely creative driven, we've got a lot of early adopters and fast movers that are loving the tools for ideation and for iteration. And on the strategy side, it's really been able to compress what would be 2 weeks worth of research and work into 8 hours, including some skills that we've already pre-built and put into doing things like persona analysis, being able to understand the marketplaces, the competitive sets. It makes me wonder if that B school investment I made for my MBA might have been displaced. But I would also say that I wouldn't, I think, be as good at managing this change had I not had that structural foundational, both from Proctor and from the business school. You learn the right questions, you learn the right approaches, and the tools can do things, but they're just that, they're tools.
Yeah. I think our teams have changed in a way that I think we'd kind of been begging for years. And I was here at ShopAble a couple of years ago, and I think the discussion that I was having at that time on that panel was all about breaking down silos and what it meant to work in commerce when there was this indisputable intersection between media and trade and shopper and sales, and that we all kind of lived at the center of that world. And we've all been kind of wanting for a way to help break down those walls faster. I think AI has been a tremendous accelerant for just even that, right? So putting solutions in the hands of teams and saying, hey, not only is this agent or this workflow enabled with your area of expertise, but it's now in a governed way been enabled with these other areas of expertise, has been probably the fastest evangelization tool to starting to create that kind of hybrid talent that we always knew that we needed, but we knew we couldn't, training session one our way to it. Right. So that's been huge.
Yeah, and you and I talked a bit behind the stage about how do you identify talent and how some junior talent actually rises up much more quickly, right, and has more to contribute.
100%. Yeah, we talked about having to leave your ego at the door in this entire experience. And
being very humble.
Being very humble, letting the people who, gravitate towards and have an affinity for this stuff train even the highest ranks of the organization, which I think is super refreshing.
And I would add to that, it's similar, and I'm absolutely dating myself now. I came out of undergrad into traditional media, and that's what I went to my undergrad for. And at 22, I was leading digital initiatives because digital initiatives were where the business had to go in media. And so it helped me accelerate very fast in my career when I was younger. And I see that same cycle happening now, but much faster even.
Right. And Dee, you mentioned before about technology changing constantly, right? So how do you keep your team current and up to speed with what's changing and it not becoming a full-time job?
We use the P&G model, and we just put the implants in the back of the neck and do an upload.
I think you talk about being humble. I'll be humble. I'll say we don't, right? I mean, I don't know who does. So we do the best we can. We have to build, firstly, we work with many different partners, and that's the key, is being a partner with them. They spend and I have to say I'm super grateful, even to Skai, investing your time and their time in helping us learn on the what and the how. Yeah, because those are two equally important things. And honestly, we do spend, we agreed we will spend 20%, if not more, of our time just on research, just on learning. We meet with, the big tech companies once a month just to learn what is happening. But you have to take a lot of it with a grain of salt, yeah? or a pinch of salt. And understand then what do you grab, what do you navigate forward with, right? The big tech companies keep coming out. I mean, SAP comes out with all new things that makes them very, conglomerate. Same thing with Microsoft, same thing with AWS, et cetera. We love our partners, but how do we learn how? Because there's never a one size fits all, especially in this. So the niche areas, and I'd say also we've immersed ourselves much more and more on understanding the so what behind whatever we do. So the skills so we have data engineers who come in and they really need to thrive and help lead, but they're learning why and in what areas of Danone's business strategy. So for an R&I, we're doing a lot in product lifecycle management. We're trying to innovate our products faster. Why? The so what behind it, because those to me are more competency based. So it's a very difficult thing to do, but we have to spend a great deal of time. Today is a great example. All of you are investing time here, learning. It's a case in point. Probably you all get invited to 20 a week, so you have to just pick and create that time and space for yourself. And I measure my team based on that as well. But it's just, I'll be clear, it's impossible to do. So that's why a team and the humble feeling of what a CEO who may be a board advisor for a company can teach us and network us with.
Yeah. Do you have other strategies that you use to stay current with all the changes that are happening before we open our eyes every day?
The first thing was deploying a fair use and practices document and then training on it, and trying to be as agnostic as possible and not lock ourselves into a single stream or workflows as it's evolving so fast. And we're also trying to manage a business and do change management on top of it. So I really look for people that are passionate about it to jump on the bandwagon and help us move it and bring new tools, because no matter how much time you spend on it, you're not going to know everything that's happening all at once. To quote a pretty good movie title.
And you need to stay agile, and,
and you need to stay
as you
agile.
mentioned, to be able to change.
Yeah, I think finding the people that are passionate about this, like we've all kind of said this in some way, shape, or form, but then letting them be champions no matter where they're coming from in the organization is huge. Because I do think there's a very human element to this, which that kind of like interest is contagious in a way. And a lot of the fear around AI is a fear of the unknown. And once you're exposed to it and getting your hands dirty, like I think a lot of that kind of falls away. And so part of that too, there was a question asked earlier, it was like a show of hands, who here has built an agent? It looked like something like 20% of the room, and everyone was saying, oh, that's pretty in line with the survey. I found that a little bit surprising. I think that's just one of the most powerful things you can do, is just like get into it. Right? And like we
force yourself to do that.
Yeah, just start. And organizationally, that means first and foremost setting up some like really strong bumper rails. Don't get me wrong, right? And governing, DNR like, very strong. But once you do that, right? And a lot of what the teams work on and create isn't going to production, it isn't going client facing, but they're experimenting, they're getting interested in it. That's contagious within a team environment, and then it becomes a little bit of a organic thing.
Right, and that brings the question of adoption, right? For those that are not the first movers, and maybe Rory, how do you think about, how do you make the whole team adopt the technology?
That's a very good question. And there are different ranges of tenure in our company. And some people have been doing things the same way for a long time. And those are I think the most important ones to focus on, because the people that are really into the technology or see the capability it'll bring them are going to be those first movers. They're going to help push it forward and be evangelists. But you also have to make sure that you're raising the level of comfort that this is not a job displacement. And our model is to not push people out through technology or reduce overhead. It's to amplify what we can do, take this small team and do this much more. And so, there's definitely a lot of, comfort level adoption over time that we have to, manage against on a one-to-one basis. And just awareness of that, I think, is important.
I would underscore the encouragement point. I think this is so new for everyone. Things are changing so fast, and not everyone is a first adopter. And so when someone in your team finds a new way of doing things with using AI, I think just like really encouraging them, in my experience, has been the most helpful thing, rather than, I guess the flip side would be like setting a bar where the expectations are that they have to do this, rather encouraging them to find creative ways to solve problems with AI. And I think also one thing that's I thought as helpful that some of the leaders on my team have done is show that this is not just for them in this job. It's important for them in their careers going forward. And I think underscoring that we're trying to all develop together has been really helpful. I mean, it's a humbling experience.
Not just a
Yeah.
job.
Right.
Yeah, I fully agree. One of the things, and maybe as we zoom out a bit, is if you had to guess, and we can all guess, but what would we have a good group of our marketeers here around the room. How would the marketeer role look in a year or two? What would change?
I will put my futurist hat on and say that I think things like store walks will have an entirely different persona when you're using computer vision and capturing interactions that consumers are having and being able to feed that data into your merchandising strategy for one thing. And I think that we're going to, probably see a bit of a dynamic shift in the types of roles that are staffed at everything from manufacturer CPGs to agencies that are supporting them. And what that looks like is going to really depend on the available toolkit that is being provided and the training that's being provided. But I do think it'll be smarter, and it's going to make it a more competitive environment because small guys like us will be able to do things that larger resource-heavy holding companies can do with some level of
You trying to fight?
Yeah. That was a.
We talked about having a good fight, right? So,
We did.
But I do think it's an exciting time. Anytime you're on the precipice of seismic shifts, there's a lot of upside as well as certainly concern about what it looks like. So management and people in this room and people that run the companies and make the decisions, as long as we're doing it with a level of benevolence.
I think we're already seeing it in our teams where junior level talent are. The things that they used to spend 80% of their time on reporting and site walks and stuff like that, that's already being solved, automated. And so the expectation is then that we're now thinking more strategically, moving faster, being more competitive with our competitor set. So I feel like things are going to, I see things speeding up, and I certainly see it within my team already.
Yeah, that point of more strategic, there's something that AI, and this sounds a little corny, but we'll never be able to do to the point of the human face of AI. And we talk a lot about as the teams evolve and we are able to kind of offload some of that monotonous work for them and the repeatable stuff first is kind of the low-hanging fruit, they get to lift their heads up, be more strategic. And then you start to see where does taste come in? And that kind of level of discernment. And that's been really interesting to watch people unlock that part of their brains. And almost everyone becomes more creative in a sense, which is interesting that that's in relationship to such a technical evolution. And I do very much agree. It's in a lot of ways an equalizer, and I think that's good, right? Everyone's feet should be held to the fire in that way. It'll help us find new points of differentiation and new capabilities and strengths. And so I think it's all quite cool.
Great. Dee, what do you think?
Yeah, I support all functions, marketing, sales, finance. We talk about the word generalist, but more in the strategic sense and the partnership sense, and be able to you come back to the human. Maybe AI will do a good portion of the work, but the human will be the one to actually make the decision, land the impact, and drive the value. And that becomes a very different type of let's say, profile. Which I think resonates. You have skills to do that. You have technology to do that. But having that capability, I said that's where I call it generalist. I see that in every function, let alone not just in marketing.
Yeah.
So maybe to round out this panel in one quick sentence, what can leadership do better in the context of AI in the organization?
Go ahead, Rory.
On the spot. I would say leadership can listen and let other people have a voice and a seat at the wheel to help drive that direction, because there's going to be people that are really, really deep in it.
Mm-hmm. I would say setting the right level of process for your team, and that's going to differ between teams and between organizations, but in my case, I sometimes find that having too little process and too little structure also doesn't help. So I think it's being thoughtful about the level of boundaries to put on your team and making it and evolving that over time as your team evolves?
Yeah, I have a lot, but I'll
Choose one.
no. But I think listen to some of those, let's say, folks that maybe they wouldn't normally interact with, in this topic, and take that to provide the structure that is needed to guide people, to then also let them fail, let them learn, let them embrace and embrace the change.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think as leaders through this era, we talked already about kind of you having to be a forever student and leaving your ego at the door, but also as a leader, your responsibility is still to create the conditions for those people to thrive, right? And whether that be through a governance, angle and just making sure that everyone is, safe in their ability to be creative with this, or giving people a vision and a direction, right? As a leader, that's still your responsibility, but then let people rip after that.
Thank you very much. This was a very insightful panel. I think we're all navigating this change in different directions, and the more we can share and learn from each other, I think that will help us all get to the next place. So thank you very much. Please thank this wonderful panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.